I'm Andrea Giles, and you're listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, episode number 144, Types of Affairs. Hello, and welcome to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, where courageous women learn not only to heal from their spouse's betrayal, but to become the boldest, truest, most decisive, and confident versions of themselves ever. If you know there's more for you than the life you're currently living, but don't quite know how to get there, you are in the right place. Stick around to learn how to create a life that will knock your own socks off. Is it possible? It is, and I'm here to show you how. I'm your host, Andrea Giles. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. This one is going to be all about types of affairs. I'm going to go through several different types of affairs, different ways that infidelity occurs. And the reason why I'm going to be doing this is because for everyone involved, it helps to know what to do about it. Not all affairs are the same. Not all infidelity is the same. There are different kinds of infidelity that need different kinds of response, different kinds of help, different kinds of bringing in professional help, different kinds of treatments, etc. The way that each individual processes infidelity, both the person who engaged in the affair and the person who learned about it later, need to know what it was about, need to know kind of a context of what led to the affair, what led to the infidelity, right? It's hurtful enough just that it happened. It's hurtful enough for every single person I've ever worked with. It's been quite a blow, and it can be really, really helpful to give some context to it. This is something that I do inside my program a lot. We get some understanding of why it happened. It's really, really important because otherwise we're looking at it through a lens that might not be correct. For example, if we just assume that our spouse is just a selfish jerk and leave it there, it really is quite impossible to actually go and make the kind of marriage that you want. If you're holding on to that, the wall's going to stay up. If you drop the wall, it's going to be so easy to jump back into it at the slightest little aggravation. You're not really going to get anywhere. And understanding what the affair was about and looking at it from a broader view is going to help you know what to do, what needs to happen. For the person who had the affair, it is not enough to just say, I'm sorry, it won't happen again. It is not enough. There needs to be some deeper understanding of what was the impetus, what were the vulnerabilities, what was going on. And that is what we're going to talk about today. Okay? That's what we're going to talk about. Before I jump into it, I would like to ask a favor. My podcast has just been growing and growing, and I hear from people all over the world how helpful it's been to them. A lot of it is because many of you have taken the time to go leave me a review, to rate and review my podcast. But I also know that many of you have not. Probably the majority of you have not. And I'm asking you as a favor, it's free, it doesn't take much time, to please take the time to go rate and review my podcast. Let other listeners know your experience with listening to my podcast. The more current the reviews, the more the algorithm picks it up, puts it in front of people, and ultimately is able to help them. So I ask that if you have not, please take the time to do so. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go. Let's look at why it happened and types of affairs. So many of the things that I'm going to be sharing today are adapted from, it's an older book, but it's an oldie but a goodie. It's called Infidelity, a Survival Guide. It's kind of hard to even get your hands on, but it is an excellent resource. Don David Lusterman, PhD, this is his work. He did extensive long-term studies of people who had experienced infidelity, people participating in it, and those that are the affected partner. And he has a great body of work around infidelity. So I'm sharing some things that from him and some things that I have adapted through my own practice to share with you today. So let's just jump in. Right out the gate, he says that people want to know, and one of the first questions that people have is, why did it happen? And the short answer to this every time is that the answer is not simple. The answer is not simple, okay? Some people are unfaithful for reasons that are tied up in their past that have absolutely nothing to do with the person in front of them, such as a history of infidelity in their parents' marriages, such as wounds from their childhood that have never been looked at, that have never been dealt with. And it's a kind of a form of acting out from this place of trauma. Others are unfaithful because of what they believe about the opposite gender, that the opposite gender is to be used and enjoyed, that kind of thing, that they're entitled to it. We're going to get a little more into all of these things. For others, it really is rooted in the marriage. There's things that they're unhappy about. They don't know how to get what they want and act out, get involved with other people to get more of what they want. We're going to be talking about all of these things. So once you get a sense, though, of what happened, why it happened, what kind of affair we're dealing with here, what kind of issue, how big is this issue, right? All of that, then you can consider what to do about it. It's very important for the person who is unfaithful. It's very important for the person who discovered the infidelity. It can even be really important for the third party, for everyone involved, to really heal and not continue on or do it again, okay? All right, so we are going to now jump into different types of extramarital involvement. As you're listening, I understand that it might make you uncomfortable. And what I want to say about that is that knowledge is power. The more you know, the more powerful your choices are going to be. So please keep open as much as you can. You can always pause it if you need to pause it and come back. And feel free to share this with your partner if you're in a partnered relationship still. Okay. Before I dive into the very specific kinds of affairs, I want to share something that psychologist Fred Humphrey has said about infidelity and extramarital sex. Okay. He suggests that we can best understand any particular act by considering the many factors involved. For one thing, you may want to know how long an extramarital affair has been going on. If your partner has been involved with more than one person, how often has it happened and with how many? It may also help to know whether there is a strong emotional bond between your mate and the other person. Some people want to know if it was very sexual, how far things went sexually. Others are more upset about a strong emotional attachment. This is an interesting piece to look at, especially between men and women. Women often have a harder time with the emotional connection, especially if they feel emotionally cut off from their spouse, and to find that they are emotionally really tight with somebody else that can be more painful than if it were like a one-night stand. For men, often they have a hard time knowing that their spouse has been physical with somebody else. That can be very, very challenging for men. A lot of this goes to how we're wired, how we think about men and women, how we think about our own significance in the life of our partners. Okay. All right. So just like there are lots of different kinds of affairs, there are lots of different ways that men and women differ in each type. There are different things that they're thinking. There are different things that they're doing. And we're going to kind of look at some of that. So first, I'd like to start with some of the most frequent reasons given for various types of infidelity. This is a more broad list, and we'll get even more specific in the next portion of this, okay? Not understanding what relational love is. I want to pause on that one. What is relational love? This word relational is something that has been in my vocabulary much more in the past year than ever before. You maybe have heard me say that in my podcast, partly because I am studying with Terry Real, and I'm in his certification program to be a relational practitioner. Part of the reason why this word relational has been more frequent in my vocabulary is because I think it sums up a lot of what our problems are in our society individually. There's so much individualism out there. Like more power to the individual. And it's problematic in that it overshoots the goal. We don't want to be dependent, completely dependent or codependent, but overshooting actual relational health within a relationship is this, I don't need anybody, right? I can do it on my own, right? That kind of attitude. And so I've been talking more about this, especially because I'm studying with Terry Real. I am in his certification program. I actually spent 7 hours today, this very day, in a mandatory training. I've got several more of these 7-hour classes coming up. It's a long day, but I love it. I just eat this stuff up. This is the kind of thing that teaches me that I'm right where I'm meant to be in the career that is meant for me, because I love it. Like, I love it. I eat it up. It's fun. It's fun for me to study. But he is the champion of relational health, Terry Real. And so to read about that in this book is really awesome, to hear about not understanding what relational love is. Relational. It's learning how to be in a healthy relationship, being relational with each other. Okay, another thing, inability to communicate feelings or needs, not having the verbal skills to solve problems together, not being able to accommodate to one another's needs or interests, not really knowing the person you married, for example, unaware of some upsetting sexual problems, not being able to cope with cultural or ethnic differences, unrealistic expectations about the nature of marriage, disappointment that your mate has not grown in the same ways you have, sexual curiosity, emotional need, such as feeling lonely in the relationship and looking elsewhere, sexual addiction, boredom, losing the sense of fun and excitement you once had as a couple. And this is not an exhaustive list, but this is one more. Getting so caught up in life's daily obligations that you lose sight of one another. Okay, as you're listening, I want you to think about if any of those that land with you. Please don't judge. Please don't feel shame. Just notice. Okay, just notice. What was true maybe in your marriage or about your partner, about you, right? Or looking at the whole. The goal here is to be able to have really healthy relationships. And the more that we're able to look at the whole, whether it's the person we're with that we're going to stay with or not, this is all good stuff that's going to help you. Okay. All right. One of the reasons why people have extramarital affairs is because of what's called the life crisis theory. All of you have probably heard of midlife crisis or identity crisis, right? For many people, they have a time in their life when reality sinks in. There's some different parts of this that we're going to look at. Sometimes it's after all of the big choices have been made. The mate has been chosen. The house has been bought. The schooling has been done. The job has been acquired, right? And this person can then start going, oh my gosh, have I chosen the right mate? I thought it was supposed to be better than this. Can I really fulfill people's expectations? I had different expectations of what the marriage was supposed to be. It can be, now that our children are grown, what is left? Can we salvage anything good from what's left, right? Sometimes these life crises can happen when we experience loss. I cannot tell you how many people have come to me to talk to me, telling me that their spouse's parent died, their mother or their father or somebody very close to them, and that's when their spouse kind of moved away from them and into another relationship. Okay. Here's the thing that's so fascinating is that it's not always negative things that push people out the door into infidelity. Sometimes it's really positive things. Sometimes it's good things. Sometimes they have these things going on. Like, for example, somebody landing the dream job. They've got the job and they want their spouse to be so proud of them, and they don't know how to articulate that they are terrified of failing. They're terrified of not getting the job done properly. And so they don't share with their spouse. They want to be seen as this strong, capable, I can show up, I can provide. They want to be seen as that way because they have been programmed to think that that's the most valuable way to show up, that you can't show weakness. And then they go to work and they are learning the ropes of this new job. And somebody there pays attention to this person, gives a bunch of attention to this person. And it feels really nice to them at the workplace to share some of their anxiety and concerns and to have a listening ear. So this is one example of a good thing. Like, this is a good thing that happened, and still infidelity occurred. Okay. Another thing that is common that I myself have coached around is around the birth of a child, that oftentimes the spouse, the father, this is often the father, will suddenly feel really unimportant, like they have no purpose. They see that the way that the mother and child are bonding and feel really worthless. And so they go out and get attention elsewhere. Sometimes the mother becomes so involved with that baby that they feel neglected and ignored. Some men just feel just not good enough. And so, for example, they'll go out and drink and have too many drinks and end up being with somebody and wreaking havoc in their life, right? For some women, becoming a mother can be very instigating in feeling their sense of worth go down, their sense of attraction, kind of feel like their whole identity is wrapped up in this tiny person. And sometimes being shown affection and attention by somebody new can feel very exciting, very validating, very tempting. Okay. So it goes both ways, not just with men, but also with women. Okay. So in both of these situations, sometimes it can be just reaching a time in life where it's like, look, it can be nothing that's particularly a big change, like a job loss, job gain, a baby, things like that. Sometimes it can just be going, oh my gosh, just like that, I'm middle-aged. What do I have to show for it? Okay. A midlife evaluation is what a famous psychologist calls it, Dan Levinson. He calls it the midlife evaluation. Some people call it a male menopause. Interesting, right? Another form of this place, of this midlife crisis or this life crisis theory, is termed reaching the summit. This is extra particular in men more than women. For men, some women, but more for men, they can hit this place where they feel like there's nowhere else to go. I got it all. I'm at the top. I'm at the top of my game financially, career-wise, with my family. I have the house. I have all the things. And this can actually cause some, instead of feeling proud and enjoying it, it can cause feelings of depression or panic and the growing realization that this pace that it is required to get to the summit cannot be maintained forever. These men have been so programmed to think that they have to succeed. And if they recognize, I can't keep this pace up, it's downhill from here, right? Which as a coach, I don't necessarily agree with, right? Because there's so many different measures of success that are outside of money or your status at work. Anyway, but for many men, this space can create some depression. Another version of this is called the facts of life. And unlike the summit or empty nest where all the kids are out, it's like, now what do we do? This sudden awareness of the facts of life can occur earlier or later than midlife. But like these other crises, the facts of life crisis is a frequent trigger for extramarital activity. Why? Okay, according to therapist Pittman, at some point in the course of the marriage, people come to grips with several painful realities. They are imperfect, their spouse is imperfect, their children are imperfect, they are not going to conquer the world, and it will all get worse. Pretty sad, right? He says these thoughts have enormous power, like the empty nest and summit crisis. This realization can also cause great anxiety or overwhelming depression. When people are anxious or depressed, they often set upon solutions that, at least for the moment, seem to relieve these feelings. One quick fix is to find a new love, to regain the feeling of a new future with new possibilities. It's kind of the perfect little setup there, even though we all know it's short-lived, right? Okay, next, another thing that happens, another reason why people step out of sight of their marriages is entitlement. So even though we have come a long way in our society in not demoralizing women as much and not objectifying women as much, I think everyone listening would agree that we've got a long way to go. There are still plenty of people who think that women are prizes to be won. And unfortunately, there are still to this day TV shows, advertisements, magazines, movies that continue to hold the belief that if a woman gets in trouble with a man, that somehow she's brought it on herself. There's still the messaging that women are playthings to be won, that they do not have to attach any emotional meaning to, right? Ironically, the studies show the number is 56%. It's probably, I don't know, right around there, okay? But the studies show that men who had purely sexual extramarital involvements reported that their marriages were happy, as do 33% of women. Isn't that interesting? So more men than women. There's a group of people who believe that extramarital sex, as opposed to extramarital romance, has nothing to do with their marriage. Nothing to do with it. They can compartmentalize it like no one's business. It's super fascinating. Men and women who feel this way often never step foot in a therapist's office until one of two things happen. One, they're caught by their partner, or two, they begin to feel like they're falling in love with someone with whom they've been having an affair. And this means that their long-term relationship or marriage is over, okay? Another form of entitlement is the belief that marriage should meet all our needs, all the attention that we need, all the great intimacy, right? Some of this is the belief that women are responsible for the relationship and that men are responsible for income and material advantage. So often what happens here is each person is seeing the other's role as, kind of entitled. It's your job to keep the home looking good, to make good food, to keep the laundry done. It's your job to make sure the kids are all taken care of, to make sure that the husband is content and satisfied. And for many women, this becomes their full-time job. This is an example from a woman named Barbara. She said, "I did everything I knew how to keep my husband happy. I learned from my mother that my job was to create a beautiful and serene home, to dress well, meaning the way he liked, to keep myself well groomed, and to protect him from the children's little squabbles. In return, she felt entitled to his continual shows of interest and to his large income, which had given the family many material advantages. Her husband, Bob, said that he had learned that his job was to be the provider. He felt that he was supposed to handle life outside the home and that it was her responsibility to make the home a safe and welcome place for him. This is how his parents' marriage worked, and it seemed good enough for them. Through the years, both Barbara and Bob had played their roles so well that once the children had grown, they felt they barely knew one another and were left with little to share. They came to therapy because each one of them had discovered that the other was having an affair. Both were seeking in their affairs the feelings of closeness and sharing that they had lost through the years. Okay? So that is just another example of how for men and women, this entitlement can come up. We can feel entitled to certain kinds of treatment and then go seek it elsewhere when we're not getting it in our marriages. Okay, the next one is sexual identity affairs. All right, so this one is really interesting to think about, to talk about. There are many, many people based on how they were raised that have pretty suppressed sexual lives. Pretty suppressed, where sometimes when they think about the kind of intimacy they want, they instantly go to a place of shame, that they feel like that would be wrong, that they would ruin their life. And sometimes when people, it kind of can come to a head for them and they feel like they're just going to blow it if they don't have some experience and like uncage some of that suppression that they have felt for such a long time. For many people, these are like going back to teenage fantasies, teenage, like that strong drive that many teenagers have, and then actually like following through with some of the things that they imagined as teenagers. Okay. Now, for some people, it's like this internal pressure. Like I have to follow through with this urge. I have to follow through. It's really important. And for many people, this is where you see, for example, a heterosexual marriage, heterosexual couple where the man has an affair with another man, or vice versa, where the woman has an affair with a woman. It can be that they have suppressed this attraction for a very long time, and it has kind of come to the point where they can't ignore it anymore, and they feel like they're going to burst if they don't do something about it, and so they go act on it, okay? This is an example from someone named Eunice. She said, the fact that Doug was having a gay relationship hit me like a ton of bricks. He is a minister, and I always thought a good Christian. He is a good father and a great parson and preacher. Everyone loves him, and the weirdest part is we always had a good love life. At least I thought we did. He is considerate, gentle, and interested in my pleasure. Doug explained that as a teenager, he had feelings toward other boys, but he had done nothing about it because he thought it was sinful and wrong. He had never dated much, but when he became a seminary student, he began to feel that it was important to find the right woman to marry, and he never did feel that he did not love and respect her. He said, in a way, it was like being in a sleepwalker. I went through the marriage always trying to be a good husband and a good man, but always feeling that in some way I was not sure that this was me, at least not the real and true me. At a convention, he met a man to whom he felt deeply attracted. He had a drink or two and found himself in the man's hotel room, where for the first time in his life, he had gay sex. He was filled with excitement, shame, and guilt. He said nothing to Eunice, but she noticed that he had come back from the meeting not quite himself. Neither of them is sure that this means the end of their marriage, but it's left each with many questions about Doug's sexual identity. So there are many examples of this. I've worked with many people who have come to me with this scenario where their spouse had an affair with somebody of the opposite gender. And sometimes it was the exploring of it that they realized that's not actually what I want at all. I want more passion within our marriage, and they come back and they want more of that. And there's a lot there for them to work through. And sometimes they realize, actually, I feel most fulfilled in this other way. Okay. So that is another type of affair. We're now going to talk about another, sexual addiction and Don Juanism. Okay. The term sexual addiction refers to a compulsive need to engage in sexual experiences. This is really important. Just like any type of kind of addiction, there's a compulsion to it. That's really, really important to know. A tendency of people who engage in these kinds of relationships or this kind of action, a tendency to hold low opinions of themselves and to constantly remind themselves of their deficiencies, distorted or unrealistic beliefs about themselves, their behavior, other people, and the events that occur in the world around them, a desire to escape from or to suppress unpleasant emotions, difficulty coping with stress, at least one powerful memory or of an intense high experienced at a crucial time in their lives, and an ever-present desire to recapture the euphoric feeling, an uncanny ability to deny that they have a problem. So there's a lot of deception. There's a lot of deception that goes on here, okay? Romance does not interest them. This is mostly men. There are some women that engage in this. People who are involved in Don Juanism or Dona Juanaism, if it's a woman, is that unlike other types of affairs where there's a third party that somebody gets involved with that often is an emotional part of their life, with this kind of affair, that is not the case. And in this kind of affair, relationships within the marriage are actually not really the problem. There might be some issues, right? There might be some things that need to be worked through, need to be navigated, but the quality of the marriage is not actually the real issue. The problem is with the Don Juan. The problem lies deep within Don Juan, and its solution depends upon whether he or she is ready to face it. Okay. This kind of personality can appear over the top, successful, strong, brilliant, right? Charismatic often, but inside they feel very, very empty. So what they do is they get their highs by going out on a conquest and winning and having the person and getting that initial hit that becomes kind of like a chemical addiction, right? It's like any other kind of addiction that you get that first hit that's really, really powerful. And that intensity can never quite be recaptured. Every subsequent experience is a little weaker in its power to produce that original feeling, but they become more and more drawn to the addiction because it filled the emptiness that is so central to his life and how he feels. Okay. They feel compelled to go through the experience of finding some person to conquer and spend as little time as possible, kind of scheming of how they're going to succeed. And then having accomplished that goal, they leave. Okay. These sexual exploits, they are not viewing the other person as a person, really. They're seeing them as an exploit, as a wanted object that they get and then they cast aside. There's really no meaning beyond this. And they can really start the next day. Many people report on their next conquest. Many Don Juans, when they're in recovery, can really look at how they this can go back to stem to teenage years. This is generally when this kind of starts out, is when they're teenagers and they don't know what to do with different things. They can have a very low self-esteem and gain kind of a false sense of self by engaging in these they get attention for it, right? Engaging in these types of behaviors. So Don Juans are very similar to sexually addicted people, but with one big difference. Okay. Don Juans can be very high on themselves and think that they're great. And sexually addicted people often feel a lot of shame and guilt. Okay. So there are two different ways that people feel here. And sometimes it can go back and forth. Okay. Where they can feel really good and look how high and mighty I am, and then can go to shame. But for the most part, Don Juan, that kind of thinking is above. I'm very, very entitled, very entitled. I deserve this, that kind of thing, where people who are the sexually addicted type, where it's a little bit different. It's less about conquesting and more about getting the hit. It can come from a place of shame and guilt. And also, I will add that for some people, that hit can be like a pretend healing from feeling insufficient. It can make them feel good, make them feel more alive, right? And hence, they do it again and again and again to have that same feeling. All right, couple more here that I'll get through. This is definitely going to be a little bit of a longer episode. Exploratory affairs. This is when there is a marriage that they know they're in trouble. The person that's having the affair knows that they're in trouble and that the marriage is in trouble, and they're kind of exploring to see what's out there, to see if there might be something better out there. And sometimes they get in over their head, get more involved than they ever intended, and sometimes inadvertently end up ruining the marriage so that there's no chance of fixing it. And sometimes what happens is these exploratory affairs show them that what they want is actually with the partner that they're with. And there's a lot of work to do to get back to that. Okay. Some exploratory affairs end with the realization that the marriage can improve, and others end in a decision to divorce, right? So that one is pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to move ahead into retaliatory affairs. Sometimes when somebody is offended by their spouse, they respond by having an affair as an act of retaliation. This is something I have coached on. It's something that I see. This happens more statistically with women than men, where women are so hurt and feel so, if they're feeling unheard, if they're feeling like, I'm going to show him how bad this hurts. You brought this pain to me. I'm going to show you how bad it hurts. They might get involved. And then as mentioned with the earlier example here, they may end up going, actually, what I have is better than what's out there, even with this hurt, and I'm willing to go all in. Sometimes a woman explores because she feels trapped, like that she doesn't have other options, like she can't do anything else. And so she explores as a way to cope with her pain, even if she knows that she's not going to leave because she doesn't feel like she can. These kinds of affairs are typically pretty joyless. Their purpose is more to hurt the partner than to get much joy out of it. Okay. In the words by this therapist, he says the best that can be said of retaliatory affairs is that for some people, they seem to even the score, but they do not help the couple resolve the problems that led to either the original affair or the retaliatory affair. So it doesn't really solve much and often adds more to it. There's one more, and then I'm going to wrap it up for today. Exit affairs. Exit affairs are when you already know that you're on your way out, and rather than really dealing with it, you have an affair to kind of seal the deal. Sometimes a man will bring his wife to therapy, hoping that the therapist can strengthen his wife as he prepares to leave. Okay. Sometimes this is a means to kind of justify his own problematic or unethical behavior. Like, oh, look how good I am. I know that I want this, so I'm going to support my wife by doing this. So sometimes people will have an affair on their way out the door, really to kind of seal the deal, to say, I know that I'm out. Now I'm going to do this, to really give the other person all the leverage to leave because I don't have the guts to do it myself. That happens. And what happens in these involvements is sometimes it can be predictable and sometimes it feels like it came right out of the blue. Many of you have said to me, I had no idea. And sometimes it's quite predictable. Okay, that is all for today. I could go into more detail of all of those, but I think I've taken long enough for today. I hope that you found it useful. I hope that you found it helpful. If you have any follow-up questions, you can always email me at andrea@andreagiles.com. Again, please leave a review. I appreciate it so much. Take care, and I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast. If you would like to be kept in the know about upcoming free classes, new podcast episodes, and other ways of working with me, go subscribe to my weekly email. You can subscribe at andreagiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. Again, it's andreagiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. I will see you next time.